Imagine driving through the quiet countryside of northeast Georgia, when suddenly, rising from a grassy hill, you spot 5 towering slabs of granite arranged like a compass. For over 4 decades, these mysterious stones puzzled visitors, sparked wild theories, and drew travelers from around the world. Then, one summer morning in 2022, an explosion shattered the calm. Today we're exploring the strange story of the Georgia Guidestones. Who built them, what they meant, and why they no longer stand. Our story begins in June 1979 in Elbert County, Georgia, a region famous for its granite quarries. A well-dressed man walked into the offices of the Elberton Granite Finishing Company. He introduced himself using the name Robert C. Christian, and calmly explained that he represented a small group of Americans who wished to erect a monument. His request was unusual, his budget was serious, and his true identity would remain hidden for the rest of his life. The name Robert C. Christian was, he admitted, a pseudonym. He chose it, he said, precisely because he was a Christian, though he refused to share his real name. The company president, Joe Fendley, initially assumed the man was joking. But when Christian described the scale of the project and demonstrated he could pay, Fendley realized this was no prank. The stranger insisted on complete anonymity, a promise that would be kept for decades to come. Christian's plan was breathtaking in its ambition. He wanted a monument that could withstand catastrophic events, one that would guide humanity through some future age of chaos. The stones needed to be enormous, astronomically precise, and built to endure for thousands of years. To prove his group's legitimacy, Christian arranged for payments through a local banker, Wyatt Martin, who became the only person ever to learn the sponsor's real identity, a secret Martin vowed to protect forever. The construction was a genuine engineering challenge. The main pillars stood nearly 19 feet tall and weighed over 20 tons each. A capstone rested across the top, and a center column anchored the arrangement. Workers had to quarry, cut, and polish the massive granite slabs with remarkable precision. Every angle mattered, because the stones were designed to align with celestial events. On March 22, 1980, the completed Georgia Guidestones were unveiled to a curious crowd. What truly set the monument apart were its inscriptions. Carved into the granite were 10 guidelines, or principles, written in 8 modern languages: English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindi, Hebrew, Arabic, Chinese, and Russian. These were meant to speak to all of humanity, regardless of nation or culture. The messages read like advice for rebuilding civilization after some great collapse. They were part philosophy, part instruction manual, and they immediately captured the imagination of everyone who read them. The very first guideline became the most controversial of all. It read, "Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature." To some, this sounded like wise environmental stewardship, a call to live sustainably within Earth's limits. To others, it sounded deeply sinister, implying a drastic reduction of the world's population. This single sentence would fuel countless conspiracy theories and heated debates for the entire lifespan of the monument. Interpretation, it turned out, was everything. The remaining guidelines encouraged reproducing wisely, uniting humanity with a living new language, and ruling passion, faith, and tradition with tempered reason. They called for protecting people and nations with fair laws, letting nations resolve disputes in a world court, and avoiding petty laws and useless officials. Other lines urged balancing personal rights with social duties, prizing truth, beauty, and love, and leaving room for nature. Together, they painted a vision of a thoughtful, balanced future. The Guidestones weren't just about words. They were carefully engineered as an astronomical instrument. A hole drilled through the center column pointed toward the North Star. A slot was cut to track the sun's movement across the seasons. and on the capstone a small aperture allowed a beam of sunlight to shine through at noon each day, marking the date. In this way, the monument functioned as a clock and calendar built to outlast civilizations. There was also a separate tablet placed nearby, explaining the monument's purpose. It described the Guidestones as a compass, calendar, and clock, and expressed hope that they would help guide humanity toward an age of reason. It even mentioned a time capsule supposedly buried beneath the site, though whether anything was ever actually placed there remains uncertain. The whole design radiated a sense of quiet optimism about humanity's potential to endure and to grow wiser. As the years passed, the Georgia Guidestones became something of a phenomenon. Tourists arrived to photograph the towering stones. Journalists wrote articles trying to unravel the mystery. Some visitors treated the site with reverence, leaving offerings or holding gatherings. Others came simply out of curiosity, drawn by the strange combination of ancient-looking design and modern messaging. For a rural corner of Georgia, the monument became an unexpected landmark, putting Elbert County on maps around the world. Naturally, the anonymity surrounding the Guidestones invited endless speculation. Who really funded them? Some suggested wealthy philanthropists. Others pointed to secret societies. A few imaginative theories linked the stones to shadowy global organizations plotting world control. The truth was likely far simpler, but the mystery persisted because so few facts were ever confirmed. Robert C. Christian himself said only that his group wished to remain anonymous so that the message, not the messengers, would receive attention. Over the years, several researchers tried to uncover the identity of Robert C. Christian. The banker Wyatt Martin, who alone knew the secret, remained faithful to his promise, even after Christian's death. Investigators pieced together clues, examined old correspondence, and proposed various candidates, but no definitive answer ever emerged publicly. Christian appeared to be an educated, thoughtful man genuinely concerned about humanity's survival. Beyond that, his story faded into the same mystery that surrounded his monument. Opinions about the Guidestones sharply divided people. Supporters saw them as a hopeful reminder to protect the planet, embrace reason, and unite as a global family. Critics, especially those alarmed by the population guideline, viewed them as unsettling or even dangerous. Some religious groups objected to the monument's secular tone. Vandalism occasionally marred the stones, with painted slogans expressing anger. This tension between admiration and suspicion followed the Guidestones throughout their entire existence, never fully resolving. As the internet age arrived, the Georgia Guidestones took on a second life online. Videos, articles, and forum discussions spread their image far beyond Georgia. To many, they became a symbol, though of what depended entirely on the viewer. Some saw wisdom, others saw warning. This growing online presence amplified both fascination and hostility. What had begun as a quiet rural monument was now a fixture of global conversation, endlessly debated by people who had never visited. Then came July 6, 2022. In the early hours before dawn, an explosion tore through the site. Security cameras captured a bright flash, and one of the massive granite panels was destroyed, sending fragments scattering across the ground. Authorities quickly determined the blast was caused by a deliberately placed explosive device. It was a shocking act of destruction against a monument that had stood peacefully for over 40 years, and it stunned the local community. Officials arrived to assess the damage and found the structure dangerously compromised. With one pillar destroyed and the capstone unstable, the remaining stones posed a serious safety risk. For everyone's protection, authorities made the difficult decision to dismantle what was left. Later that same day, crews used heavy machinery to bring down the surviving pillars. In a matter of hours, a monument built to last thousands of years was reduced to rubble and memory. Law enforcement launched an investigation into the bombing, releasing footage and appealing for information. Despite these efforts, the case proved difficult to solve. No individual was ever publicly charged with the crime, leaving another layer of mystery around the Guidestones' final chapter. Just as the monument's origins had remained hidden, so too did the identity of whoever ended its life. The stones that had begun in anonymity ultimately fell in anonymity as well. The destruction sparked mixed reactions across the country. Some mourned the loss of a unique and thought-provoking landmark, viewing it as an act of senseless vandalism. Others felt indifferent, or even relieved, given the controversy the stones had always carried. Preservationists lamented that a genuinely one-of-a-kind piece of American folk architecture was gone forever. Whatever people believed about its messages, most agreed that destroying it with explosives was a troubling and destructive way to settle a debate. Today, the Georgia Guidestones exist only in photographs, memories, and the countless stories they inspired. They remain a fascinating puzzle, built by an unknown group, guided by mysterious principles, and destroyed by an unidentified hand. Whether you saw them as wisdom or warning, their story reminds us how powerfully symbols can capture human imagination. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you enjoyed exploring this mystery, consider subscribing, and we'll see you in the next one.